The fluorescent lights in the hospital cafeteria always buzzed at this hour, like they were as tired as the people sitting beneath them. I sat alone at a small corner table, hands wrapped around a styrofoam cup of coffee that had gone cold before I even took the first sip. Not that it mattered. I wasn't drinking it for warmth anymore. I was drinking it to stay awake, to stay functional, to stay something. My name is Lana Brooks, and by 1:00 a.m., I was no longer a nurse, just a heartbeat in scrubs. Surviving the last hours of a 14-hour shift, my legs felt like they were made of poured concrete. My back ached from bending over beds and cribs, lifting children, holding crying parents, fighting insurance companies, fighting exhaustion, biting everything all at once. People think pediatric nursing is sweet, the soft pastels, the cartoon stickers, the little blankets. They don't see the bills, the guilt, the grief, the weight of other people's children in your hands. And for me, everything was doubled. Because when my shift ended, I didn't go home to rest. I went home to my 4-year-old daughter, Harper, who needed shoes, and lunches, and a mother who didn't have the energy to fall apart. I stared at my reflection in the window, dark circles under my eyes, hair knotted back in a messy bun that had stopped looking cute sometime around hour 10, skin pale, under harsh lighting. I looked invisible, and for a long time now, I had felt that way. 2. That's when the cafeteria door opened. A gust of February air rushed in first, sharp enough to wake the dead. Then came the smell cologne. Expensive, layered with something darker. Leather, smoke. The kind of scent you remembered even if you tried to forget it. But I didn't look up. People like that didn't walk into my life. Not anymore. Lana. My body froze. Every muscle in my shoulders went tight. No. No. Please. Not him. Not tonight. I forced myself to look. Cole Maddox stood 3 feet away, like a ghost carved out of every bad decision I'd ever made. It had been 2 years since he'd disappeared. 2 years since he'd left me pregnant, terrified, and alone. 2 years since I'd sworn I'd never let him back into my life again. Yet here he was, looking like he hadn't missed a single night of sleep, like life had treated him better than he deserved. His dark hair styled perfectly, jaw shaved clean, black leather jacket hanging open over a shirt I knew cost more than my monthly rent. He smiled, the same smile that used to charm every bruise into silence. Miss me. My grip tightened around my coffee cup. What are you doing here? Cole, I came to see you. His voice dipped lower, familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. You've been ignoring my messages. I blocked you. That wasn't very nice. I'm not a nice person anymore. I said, being abandoned does that. His eyes narrowed just a little, just enough to see the temper simmering under his practiced charm. You look tired. Lana, he said, his gaze dragging over my scrubs, my messy hair, the lines on my face. You used to be pretty. What happened to you? My life happened. I whispered. He leaned closer, breath warm with whiskey. Let me guess. The kid's still keeping you up. You shouldn't have had it alone. You know. My stomach dropped. The kid has a name. I snapped. Her name is Harper. And she's mine. Mine too. He murmured, stepping closer. You forget that part. No. I said, my voice shaking. I remember everything. He reached for my wrist. His fingers tightened, freezing me in place. This little rebellion of yours ends now. You and we're not done. Let go of me. No, his voice dropped to a possessive whisper. Lana, you still belong to me. My heart hammered against my ribs. And then, a shadow fell over us. A man stepped between us so quickly. I barely registered the movement. One moment Cole was gripping my wrist. And the next, there was a hand on his chest. Steady. Firm. Pushing him back. She said no. The man's voice was low. Calm. Dangerous. That means you're done. Cole stumbled a step, but caught himself. Posture snapping. Straight in defense. Who the hell are you? He growled. The stranger didn't answer. He didn't need to. He simply stood there tall. Controlled. Dressed in a black coat, tailored like armor. He had dark hair. Darker eyes. And a presence that made the entire cafeteria fall silent. Two men stood behind him. Me. Watchful. Like shadows, waiting for instructions. Cole's bravado flickered. Don't get involved, he said. Voice tight. This is between me and my fiancé. Ex-fiancé. I corrected sharply. The stranger didn't look at me. But I felt his awareness like a hand on my spine. He took one step closer to Cole. Leave, he said simply. Before this becomes something you regret. Cole looked around, as if hoping someone would step in. No one did. Half the cafeteria was staring. The other half pretended not to. He hissed under his breath. This isn't over. Lana. He walked out. Shoulders rigid with anger. Only when the door swung shut behind him did the stranger finally turn to me. Are you hurt? He asked. No. I whispered. His gaze swept over me quick. Assessing. As if he could see every bruise I'd hidden. Every fear I'd swallowed. He wasn't just looking at me. He was reading me. I'm Darius, he said finally. Darius? What Valenti? The name hit harder than it should have. Because I had heard it before. Whispers from security guards. From night shift nurses. From patients with too many secrets. A name spoken softly. Like a prayer or a threat. And suddenly everything made sense. The shadows. The silence. The danger. I swallowed hard. Why did you help me? Because you needed help. That's not an answer. His lips curved, not a smile. More like an acknowledgement. I don't like men like him, he said. Men who think no doesn't apply to them. I didn't know what to say. My heart was still racing. My hands trembled. He reached into his coat and held out a card. A simple white card. Embossed with nothing but a phone number. No name, I asked. You won't need it. I frowned. I don't understand. You will, he said softly. When he comes back? I stared at him. How do you know he will? Because men like that always come back. His voice dropped to a tone that made my skin prickle. And when he does, you won't be alone. Before I could respond, he stepped back. His men moved with him. Silent, as shadows returning to the dark. Darius Valenti paused at the door just long enough to say one last thing, call me. And then he was gone. By the time my shift ended, snow had started falling, soft flakes that coated the parking lot in white silence. I drove home with numb fingers gripping the wheel. The card burning a hole in my coat pocket. My apartment building was quiet. Too quiet. I climbed the stairs, juggling my keys. My bag. My exhaustion. I unlocked my door. It looked normal. Lights off. Kitchen dark. But something felt wrong. A faint shift in the air. A smell that didn't belong. Cigarettes. Aftershave. I stepped inside slowly. My mail wasn't where I'd left it. A chair was pushed slightly off-center. A blanket folded differently. Someone had been here. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. In the center of the kitchen table sat a manila envelope. Thick. Heavy. My name written across the front. My fingers shook as I opened it. Photos spilled out. Cole in a bar, with men I didn't recognize. Cole exchanging money in an alley. Cole yelling into a phone outside the hospital. The last photo stopped my breath entirely. Cole, standing beside my car. His hand raised. The timestamp from 2 hours earlier. He had punched the side mirror clean off. Under the photos was a single line typed neatly. You are not safe. Call the number. Inder. I sat down slowly. The room spinning around me. Darius Valenti wasn't a coincidence. He wasn't a stranger. He knew Cole. He knew me. He knew everything. And somehow, I wasn't afraid. Not of him. Only of what would happen if I didn't call. Outside. The snow kept falling. Inside. I held the card with trembling hands. And finally, I understood. This was the moment everything in my life shifted. The moment the danger found me. And the moment he did. Too. I didn't sleep. Not really. I lay awake for hours, with that envelope spread across my kitchen table. The photos, staring back at me like warnings carved into stone. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Cole's face twisted in rage. Saw him standing over my car. Saw the timestamp. He'd been there. Close. Too close. By sunrise. The fear had settled into something heavy and suffocating. I stared at the card Darius had given me. I told myself I shouldn't call him. That I didn't know him. That trusting a man like him was reckless. But the truth was simpler than that. I didn't feel safe. And I hadn't felt safe in years. My hand shook as I dialed the number. The phone rang once. Then, Lana. He said my name like he had been waiting for the call. I swallowed. How did you know it was me? Because no one else has this number. He said calmly. Are you home? I nodded, before remembering he couldn't see me. Yes. Is your daughter with you? No, Harper's with the neighbor. She stayed overnight. Good. His tone shifted. Lower. Firmer. Tell me what's wrong. So I told him about the envelope, the photos, the message, the break-in, the mirror on my car. He didn't interrupt. He didn't panic. He didn't even breathe louder. He listened like he already knew every detail. When I finished, he spoke softly. Lana, Cole, is spiraling. His debts are bad. His decisions are worse. And when desperate men run out of money, they start looking at the people they can use. My heart squeezed. Use how you. His voice hardened. And your daughter? I felt sick. That's why I intervened. He continued. That's why I warned you he'd come back. The fear in my chest swelled. Darius, how do you know all this? A beat of silence. Then I make it my business to know things. Especially when someone dangerous is circling someone I intend to protect. The words shouldn't have comforted me. They should have scared me. But they didn't. Instead, I felt like I could breathe, for the first time since Cole reappeared. Go to your window, Darius said. I moved slowly. Pulling back the curtain, a black SUV sat parked across the street. The windows tinted, the engine running quietly. Do you see it? Yes. My men, he said. They'll stay until I get there. I froze. You're coming here, I'm already on my way. He arrived 20 minutes later. Not in the SUV, but in a sleek black sedan that didn't belong in my neighborhood. The kind of car you saw in luxury ads. Not outside crumbling apartment buildings with flickering hallway lights. When I opened the door, he stood there calm, collected, wearing a coat heavy enough to make him look carved from winter itself. He looked at me once. Just once. And something in his expression shifted. A flicker of anger. Or concern. Maybe both. You didn't sleep, he murmured. No. You haven't eaten either, It wasn't a question. He brushed past me, stepping into my apartment like he'd been there 100 times before. His eyes swept the room, not judgmental, just observant. I realized suddenly how small my place was, how the paint chipped on the walls, how the heat barely worked, how the lock on the door rattled if you pushed hard enough. Darius noticed all of it, and he didn't like what he saw. He turned to me. "Did you know your rent is 3 months behind?" My breath hitched. "How do you? Your landlord filed a complaint this week," he said. "You'd be evicted within a month." Shame burned my cheeks. "I'm doing my best." "I know," he said quietly, but his jaw tightened like he hated that I had to try so hard. "And your car," he added. "The brakes are failing. The bumper is rusted through. And the mirror was barely hanging on before Cole ripped it off." He blinked. "How do you know all this already?" His eyes didn't soften, but something in them warmed. Because once I decide to protect someone, I don't do it halfway. I exhaled shakily. "I don't know how to handle this." "How to handle you?" "That's fine," he murmured. "Just let me fix what I can." The next morning, when I stepped outside with Harper's hand in mine, I nearly stopped breathing. My car, my battered, rusted, dying Honda was gone. In its place stood the same car, but transformed. New paint, new mirror, new bumper, new tires. Even the interior was spotless. A man in a black jacket approached with keys. "Miss Brooks," he said, with a faint accent. "Your vehicle is ready." I didn't authorize this." "Mr. Valenti did." He handed me an envelope. It was heavy, too heavy. Inside was a gift card for Harper. And on it, a note. "Every little girl deserves to run without pain." Doe. My chest tightened. Harper tugged at the stuffed rabbit inside the bag. "Mama, look, he has soft ears, her smile bright, pure, untouched by fear," nearly broke me open. The neighbor across the hall peeked through her doorframe. Eyes wide at the sight of the new car and the men guarding it, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window, tired, uncertain, overwhelmed. But for the first time, hope flickered in the exhaustion. That night, my phone buzzed. "Dinner, 7 p.m. Wear something comfortable. This." I stared at the message. "How do you even know when I get off work?" I typed back. His reply came seconds later. "Because I pay attention." This. The restaurant he sent me to looked like it belonged in a different universe. Warm lighting, dark wood, quiet music, no chaos. Darius sat at a table in the corner, back to the wall, posture relaxed but alert. When he saw me, something unreadable passed through his eyes. He stood, pulled out my chair. "You came," he said. "You didn't give me room to say no." He smirked. "If you truly didn't want to be here, you wouldn't be." He was right, and that realization scared me more than anything. For a while, we talked like two people circling a fire, careful, curious, burning just a little. Then something shifted. He told me his mother had been a nurse, overworked, underpaid, alone. She died on a hospital floor. He said softly, "Exhaustion, aneurysm." No one helped her. No one cared. The pain in his voice was subtle, but sharp enough to cut through steel. "I swore," he continued, "I would never let someone like her go unseen again." Our eyes met, and in that moment, I understood something terrifying. He didn't just want to protect me. He felt compelled to. 2 days later, Cole appeared outside the hospital again. His voice was low, threatening. You think some fancy guy is gonna save you. You think he'll protect you when I take Harper. Before I could respond, two men in black stepped between us. Cold palled. One of them lifted a phone to his ear. Sir. He's here. It took Darius less than 6 minutes to arrive. He walked toward us, like a storm contained in human form. Stopping so close, Cole had to tilt his head back to meet his eyes. What did you say to her? Darius asked softly. Cole's throat bobbed. Nothing. You threatened her. I didn't. Darius smiled. It wasn't kind. It was the smile of a man who knew exactly how much fear he inspired. I don't tolerate threats to what's mine. Cole froze. And even I trembled at the possessiveness in his voice. The turning point came that Saturday. Darius came to pick me up, but Harper was home with me. The moment Harper saw him, she ran straight toward him. Zero hesitation. He knelt down instinctively, catching her, lifting her into the air like he'd been waiting to hold her his whole life. You're tall, she said. He huffed a laugh. I've heard. You smell like the nice candles at the store. He blinked. Actually blinked. Do I? Yep. And just like that, the dangerous man melted. Lana Brooks watched a mafia boss fall in love with her child in real time. And I knew. In that moment. We were all in deeper than I had ever imagined. The gala was supposed to be a safe event. It wasn't. Darius held my hand as we entered the hospital's fundraising hall, his touch warm, firm, possessive. He looked devastating in a black suit. More powerful. More dangerous. People whispered when he walked by. But for the first time, he didn't care. He didn't hide us. He wanted me seen. Halfway through the night, everything changed. I felt someone watching me. When I turned, a man stood near the entrance, eyes sharp, recognition burning in them. I'd seen him before. In the photos. In the envelope. Cole's criminal circle. Cole's dead. And he had come here. For me. Darius's hand tightened on my waist. His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. They came for you. Before I could breathe, security surged. Shouts erupted. Men moved like shadows closing in. Darius turned me toward him, his eyes burning with a promise I didn't yet understand. And then, chaos swallowed the room. The ride home from the gala felt like the world had come loose from its hinges. Marco sat in the front seat, his eyes constantly scanning the mirrors. Another car followed behind us. Then another. A moving wall of protection I hadn't asked for, but suddenly couldn't imagine being without. Is he okay? I finally asked. My voice barely more than a whisper. Marco didn't look back. Mr. Valenti can handle himself. That's not an answer. He hesitated. Then said quietly. He's angry. That's bad news for whoever sent that man into the gala. My hands tightened around the clutch in my lap. When we pulled up in front of my building, two men were already there. Waiting. They fell in beside us as we walked up the stairs, checking every landing, every shadow, every sound. My apartment had never felt so small, or so watched. Lock the door, Marco said, top and bottom. Don't open it unless it's me or Mr. Valenti. Understood, I nodded. And Lana, he added. Yes. He doesn't get like this for just anyone. Then he was gone. The silence that followed felt heavy. Almost wrong. I kicked off my shoes and sank onto the worn couch. Still in the midnight blue dress he'd had sent to my apartment. The fabric pulled around me like someone else's life. Somewhere. My phone buzzed with messages from coworkers asking if I was okay. If I'd seen the guy who tried to storm the event. If I knew what was going on. I didn't answer any of them. I stared at the door. I waited. Time lost meaning. It could have been 1 hour. It could have been 5. When the knock finally came. It was soft. 2 taps. I knew it was him. My heart reacted before my brain could catch up. I crossed the room, fingers clumsy on the locks. When I opened the door, the breath went out of me. Darius stood in the hallway. White dress shirt stained with something dark near the cuff. His tie was gone. His hair was mussed. His knuckles were scraped and already beginning to swell. He looked like he'd walked through hell and come back just to stand here. For the record, he said quietly, this isn't how I imagined ending the night. I swallowed. What happened? He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The air shifted around us. No one will touch you again, he said. Calm. Final. That's what happened. Something in his tone made my skin prickle. Darius. He shrugged out of his jacket and draped it over a chair, without the armor of his tailoring. He looked more human, more dangerous, more real. I told you. He continued. They sent a message. I sent one back. My voice shook. What does that mean? It means the man who came for you won't be coming back, he said. And neither will his friends. Not for you. Not in this city. I stared at his hands, at the blood on his sleeve, at the way his shoulders held tension like a habit. You, the word caught in my throat. You hurt him. He looked at me then. Really looked. Searching my face for something fear. Hatred. Revulsion. Lana, he said slowly. You know what I am. My heart pounded. I know what people say you are. And now you've seen enough to know they're not entirely wrong. I took a breath that didn't feel like it reached my lungs. So, tell me. No euphemisms. No half-truths. I need to hear it from you. He inclined his head, like a man accepting terms he'd expected all along. All right, he said. Ask. Are you? The word felt heavy. Are you a killer? Yes. No hesitation. No apology. Just truth. Have you killed recently? I asked. Yes. My fingers tremble. Because of me, he paused. Because of the choice they made when they targeted you. He said. They knew who I was. They knew what it would mean. They did it anyway. They're not victims. Lana. They're consequences. The room seemed to tilt. Just a little. Am I in danger just by being near you? I whispered. His jaw clenched. You were in danger before you met me. You just didn't know who it was coming from yet. That's not an answer. He stepped closer, leaving very little space between us. You want the truth? He asked. Fine. Yes. Being with me means living in a world with sharper edges. My name comes with power, but it also comes with enemies. People who test boundaries. People who look for weaknesses. You call me a weakness? I asked. Stung? His eyes softened. Just slightly. I call you a target. He reached out, tracing lightly along my wrist, where Cole had grabbed me in the cafeteria. And I don't allow anyone to touch what's mine. He added. The word mine sent a shiver through me I didn't want to examine too closely. I swallowed hard. What do you want from me? Darius. The question hung in the air between us. Fragile and sharp. He considered me for a long moment, like he was debating how much truth I could handle. Then he answered. Everything. My chest tightened. I want your trust, he said, voice lower now. I want your time, your laughter, your anger, your stubbornness. I want your daughter to look at me and see safety, not danger. I want a life with you in it, whether you're ready to call it that or not. My throat went dry. And if someone, he continued, tries to take that from me, if they threaten you or Harper, I will end them. Without hesitation. Without remorse. That's who I am. I won't pretend otherwise. The honesty of it both terrified me and steadied me. You can't just say things like that. I whispered. You can't just walk into my life. Pay my debts. Fix my car. Rearrange my world. And decide you want everything. He gave a small, humorless huff of air. Lana, you're smart. You know, I didn't decide anything. Then what is this? I demanded. What am I to you? Some woman you feel guilty over because she reminds you of your mother, a charity project. A way to rewrite what happened to someone you lost. He flinched. For the first time since I'd met him. Darius looked wounded. No, he said softly. You're not a replacement. And you're not a project. He stepped even closer, his hand coming up to cradle the side of my face. Fingers warm against my skin. I didn't pick you, he said. A voice rougher now. The mask slipping completely. I recognized you. My breath caught. You are the one thing that feels real in a world I don't trust. He continued. Do you have any idea what that means? To a man like me, I swim in lies. In half-truths. In polite threats, wrapped in expensive suits. Everyone wants something. Everyone is masking something. And then there's you. His thumb stroked my cheek. You look at me like I'm a man, he said quietly. Not a monster. Not a myth. Not a wallet. Just a man. Flawed. Dangerous. Unforgivable in 100 ways. And you still haven't run. Something inside me cracked open. I'd been holding on to fear so tightly I didn't realize how much it weighed until it slipped. Tears burned at the corners of my eyes. Maybe I should, I said. But even I could hear the weakness in it. You should, he agreed. A nurse. A single mother. A good woman. You should run as far from me as you can. His forehead rested gently against mine. And I could feel his breath against my lips. But you won't. He finished. Because you feel it too. This pull between us. This gravity. I let out a shaky laugh. You sound very sure of yourself. I'm not sure of much, he murmured. But I'm sure of this. Of you. Of what I'm offering. Even if I don't know how to package it in a way that sounds normal. What are you offering? I asked. A voice, almost a whisper. He breathed in slowly. Then gave me the simplest answer he could. Protection, he said. Obsession. Loyalty. A life where you never have to look over your shoulder alone again. My fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt, without me wanting them to. This isn't just lust. Lana, he added. I've had that. This is me, giving you every piece of power I have and asking you not to throw it away. I closed my eyes. There, in my tiny living room. Wrapped in danger and honesty and the faint smell of blood and cologne. Something inside me stopped fighting. I leaned in. The decision wasn't loud. It was quiet. Soft. A surrender made, not out of weakness, but out of exhaustion. Our lips brushed once. Then again. And then the dam broke. His hand slid to the back of my neck, pulling me deeper into the kiss. But his touch stayed gentle, like he didn't want to scare me away. His other hand rested on my waist, as if anchoring himself. The kiss wasn't frantic. It was claiming, an acknowledgement of everything we both already knew. When we finally broke apart, my breath came in short bursts, my heart pounded against my ribs. And I realized his did too. You're safe now, he murmured, thumb tracing my lower lip. You're mine. I didn't pull away. I didn't argue. For the first time in years, I believed someone when they said I was safe. In the weeks that followed, my life didn't magically turn into a fairy tale, but it did change. Subtly at first, then all at once. My double shifts disappeared from the schedule. My manager seemed suddenly more flexible. A few weeks later, she called me into her office with tears in her eyes and handed me a folder. A scholarship for advanced nursing, full tuition, books, and a stipend. Anonymous donor. But the second I saw the letterhead, I knew. Of course it was him. Whoever believes in you this much, my manager said, is someone you shouldn't let go of easily. Harper's daycare bill was paid 3 months ahead. The landlord started fixing things he'd ignored for years. Groceries appeared like clockwork. Sometimes I urged. Sometimes I told him it was too much. He'd always respond the same way. You took care of yourself alone for a long time. He'd say over the phone, let me take care of you for a while. Call it my selfishness if it helps. He didn't push me to move in. Didn't rush anything. But he was there. At the end of every shift. A car waited for me. At random afternoons. He'd meet us at the park, his suit jacket off. Sleeves rolled up. Pushing Harper on the swings, while pretending not to be winded. His phone never rang when he was with us. Or if it did, he ignored it. He was Darius Valenti. Rumoured to run half the city from behind closed doors. But to Harper, he was just Dari. The man who always knelt to her level and never forgot which stuffed animal was her favourite that week. To me, he was the impossible contradiction. Danger. Wrapped around the only safety I'd ever truly felt. One night, months after the gala, I stood on the balcony of his penthouse. The city spread beneath us, in glittering lines of light. I'd finished a long but beautiful day at the hospital. I had classes twice a week now. Harper was thriving. My bones still knew the feel of exhaustion. But it no longer owned me. I heard the sliding door open behind me. He stepped out. Warmth rolling off him, even in the cool night air. Thinking, he asked. Always. I said. He joined me at the railing. Our shoulders barely touching. For a moment, we stood in silence, watching the city breathe. I can give you something, he said finally, but I won't force it on you. I glanced at him. You don't force much, I force a lot, he said honestly. Just not this. His hand found mine. Fingers intertwining with deliberate care. I can give you a life without fear, he said. As much as anyone in my world can. Doors that stay locked from the outside. Shadows that work for you. Not against you. A future for Harper, where no one ever uses her as leverage. I swallowed, watching the lights blur slightly. But I won't take a single step, he continued. Unless you choose me back. Fully. Not just in emergencies. Not just when you're tired. Not just when you're scared. His thumb brushed the back of my hand. I want a life with you, he said. Messy. Complicated. Dangerous. At the edges. Maybe. But real. I know what I'm asking. I know what I am. So, I'm asking you anyway. I looked at him. Really looked. At the man who had watched my back when no one else did. At the man who had removed threats before I even knew they existed. At the man who made my daughter feel safer than anyone else ever had. I thought of late night shifts. Walking to my car with keys between my fingers like a weapon. Of Cole's voice in my ear. Calling me his like. It was a curse. Of envelopes left on my table. Photos of danger I hadn't chosen. Of cold apartments. Colder beds. Empty bank accounts. And the quiet kind of loneliness that clung even when Harper's small body was curled against mine. Then I thought of this man. This flawed, violent, complicated man who had laid every dark part of himself at my feet and said, Here, this is me. Decide for yourself. I took a breath that felt like a beginning. I'm tired of surviving, I said softly. I want to live. His gaze locked on mine. I don't know how to do this, I admitted. I don't know how to be with someone like you without losing myself. I don't know how to love you and not be scared of you at the same time. You don't have to know, he replied. We learn it together. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Darius, I whispered. I choose you. Silent, sharp. Electric hung for half a second. Then he exhaled. And it sounded like someone letting go of a lifetime of tension. He pulled me toward him, his hand sliding to the back of my neck as his lips claimed mine in a kiss that was less a question now and more an answer we both already knew. When we finally parted, foreheads resting together, I realized something simple and profound. I wasn't stepping into his world just for protection. I was stepping into it because somewhere along the way, against all logic and all odds, it had become home. Later, when I lay in his arms with the city humming outside and Harper sleeping safely in the next room of this impossible, dangerous, beautiful life, the truth settled fully in my bones. I stepped into his world for protection, but I stayed because he was the only place that ever felt like home. Thank you for listening to this story. If Lana and Darius's journey touched your heart tonight, don't forget to support the channel. Please like the video. Leave a comment telling me your favorite moment. And share this story with someone who loves romance as much as you do. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter of love, danger, and destiny. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.